Hi gang, so this channel has been up for 2 years, 2 entire years of my life doing this and other things, and I just passed 75,000 subscribers. So I thought I'd do the same as a year ago and give you all a bit of an update on the state of the channel and a chance to answer important questions you've posed, like, what's my favourite soup? Parsnip soup's obviously the best. Right, so at the time of recording, my channel is sitting at 77,107 subscribers, which I think's pretty okay for a niche channel that's only been up a couple of years. Is it? It's been an interesting year. Obviously, the channel has grown. I was kind of hoping I'd hit that 100,000 by 2 years. That would have been fun, but yeah, it's grown. It's good. Partly, I think that's because of some of the choices in what videos I've made this year. Obviously, I'm still doing general lore videos, some videos about, I guess, gaming culture, and then regular series like Tale of Four Gamers or Book Club. But we also did a big series on all the Horus Heresy Legions when that came out, which was a bit weird as it kind of locked me into doing the same thing for 4 months, and then I suddenly didn't know what to make when it was over. That was also a bit of a learning experience, as they initially got quite a big spike in views, which then trailed away over the course of the series, which I was then locked into for a while, which meant that sometimes I was releasing 2 videos a week. By the end, I was kind of just racing to get them done, which wasn't ideal, but I'm glad I did it. It was nice to do like a big long series like that. And then to sort of up the numbers after that, I decided to do some like classic lore videos, the sort of thing everyone else does, with maybe a bit of a spin at the end to highlight the grimdark that everyone else seems to leave out. I really should call these Why These Factions Are Bad as a series name or something. Those have been doing well. Also, the couple of videos I've done on influences have done really well, as have the summaries of like recent lore events. A few things didn't do so well. I haven't done any Let's Plays of Ancient Games Workshop board games for a while because nobody watches them. And while I've done occasional modeling videos, they also never really do that well. I think the YouTube algorithm has sort of sorted me into a different box from the painting people. There have also, as always, been the videos everyone likes to argue about, which is great for farming comments, I guess, but I'm always encouraged by the fact that even the most contentious ones still mostly have people on side. You know, curate your audience. In terms of numbers, things have steadily gone up, which is good. Generally, new videos are tending to hit around 20 or 30,000 views in the first week, about half my total subscribers, which is a lot more than it was before. My 40K timeline, that one video from the very start, is still the most popular thing on the channel. I've settled into the 1 video a week routine, which is good, and it's easier to maintain now that my recording setup's kind of permanent. I say that, but I've actually had to move out for a refurbishment of my flat, so I'm in a fake room right now in my work studio. But that does mean that when I finally get back in the flat, I guess I'll get to upgrade it again. So mostly the best thing to say there is thanks everybody. Thanks for tuning in and watching them and putting up with the adverts and joining the Patreon. I have tried since we started it to put some perks in it for everybody, even if it is very basic. So now it feels like something that I'm still enjoying doing. I mean, sometimes, you know, you have to grit your teeth and make something, but I still enjoy doing it. And it has like some like really, really tangible benefit, I guess, which is lovely. I'm generally still avoiding some things that would lock me into too many expectations. I haven't really taken advertising or sponsorships and things because that locks me into a deadline that I don't really want. And as I said, I've resisted making the Patreon any bigger or starting a Discord, as it's just a load of extra work. I might change the Patreon policy before the next big Tale of Four Gamers. This time round, I came up with a clever idea of having people submit their work along with us, which was a really nice way to sort of keep in touch with the community and keep us all motivated. It's been really, really good, but also way more popular than I expected. It's got more popular every month, which is weird. I started an affiliate thingy with Firestorm Games, and I've been asked for the same thing with Element Games. They seem sensible because they're kind of passive, but I must admit I haven't actually put any effort into pushing them that much. Yeah, if you want to earn me some store credit, use the link below. I should probably fold that into the title sequence or something like that. And of course, I also joined the Games Workshop Content Creator Program. Probably joined it like end of summer last year, and it's just starting to kick in really. That's led to loads of fun things. I've been invited to a few events. The main benefit of that is actually meeting all the other people that do this and actually hanging out with other content creators. That's really, really nice. It also means that I'm getting models sent to me. They did warn me when I started that the amount of models can be a bit overwhelming. I very deliberately didn't ask for the big 40K ranges because, you know, I haven't actually got time to assemble and paint that much. and I'm not really a painting person. But it is really nice to get early peeks or early peeks at books, or just to get models to look at and paint that I probably wouldn't have done myself. If anyone's interested, I usually post previews of that sort of thing on Instagram and Twitter, which are also down below. It's also, I guess, doing the job Games Workshop want and sort of influencing what games I play, which is absolutely intention, but I don't mind. So yeah, thanks for that, Games Workshop, but mostly thanks to all of you lovely people who continue to be an encouraging group of very nice humans, humans who have questions for me. Right, I'll try and get through as many as possible. I've sorted them out by subject matter, starting with the ones about running a channel or about me, and then moving on to the opinions on the latest Games Workshop stuff or like lore questions, and finally all the ones that are like what's your favorite something. So yeah, here we go. Okay, Mike asks how I met the current Tale of Four Gamers crew and how long we've been friends. So, yes, we've got Bobby, Russ, and Gary, and I'm going to throw Mira in as well because they're all on the channel regularly. Gary, I've probably learned the longest. I met Gary in the pub 20 years ago when I was just probably stopping being a student. And we got into playing Warhammer probably around 4th edition, end of 4th edition, start of 5th edition. So we've been playing Warhammer together for ages. So he's the person I've known longest. Mira, I met Mira in 2006. I know that. So I used to play in rock bands and Mira also did. And we used to play a lot of the time together. Then she got really into D&D and became a bit of a D&D celebrity. And I introduced her to the Hate Club, Hackney Area Tabletop Enthusiasts, which is a fantastic little club in East London, which I went to regularly, but I've been really remiss in going since after lockdown. So she's became a regular there, and then started coming on the channel. So Mira, I know through that. Then Russ, I met on Daka Daka back in the day. So again, probably like, I'm going to say 2010-ish, 8-ish. We were doing Necromunda campaigns. We used to play at the Overlords in Essex, doing Necromunda campaigns way before the new Necromunda came out, so like early 2010s, I think. And then he came over to Hate Club, and then through Hate Club, I met Bobby. We met at a 40k escalation event in Hastings. I think it's the first time we actually met. So yeah, it means everyone there, I think Bobby's the person I've known the least. I've known her for like, I guess it must be 5 or 6 years now. Yeah, it must be. And then Gary for like 20 something. Yeah. Speaking of which, Gary Keenan, you should do a Tale of Four Gamers Blood Bowl League. Yes, very clever. Never. Carlos asks if I'll be doing videos similar to the Taros campaign video. I totally intend to. A lot of the campaigns in Warhammer don't have the level of map detail to do something exactly like that, but I'm totally intending to do more like that and like do the similar like wrap up this entire campaign in 20 minutes thing. Yeah, we'll see. Okay, how much time do you spend on or with Warhammer? How many books do you read a month? How many evenings do you spend playing? Quite a lot at the minute. This channel has actually boosted the amount of time I spend on it. I guess I'd spend like a few evenings a week doing my own thing. Probably an evening or two a week modeling. I might get to game once a week. At the moment, that's actually quite a high number. Often that would be me and Gary playing Underworlds, which is the most popular, most common game I play because it's just easy. We can do it down the pub. Probably I get a proper game of Warhammer in, which is almost always Horus Heresy at the minute, maybe every couple of weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks, usually at Bad Moon Cafe in London. Has this changed the way I hobby? Yes, it really has. Tale of Four Gamers is really nice because it keeps us to a set thing. Actually, for me, Tale of Four Gamers has slowed down the way I build armies, which is quite nice. I sort of do little things in the middle. I guess being sent products a little bit, but also having little events happening in the meantime means that I sort of do a lot of little projects. Like there's been some really nice times this year when I've just been, I sent that weird Necromunda character. I'll just paint him this evening. And that's quite fun. So yeah, whereas before I'd probably always be working on some great big army. Now that great big army is spread over like 6 months of a Tale of Four Gamers. Okay, how much am I connected with past and present Games Workshop staff members and how does that affect my videos? I guess I've been around for a bit, so I've got a few connections, but it doesn't necessarily affect the videos. Like I know a couple of authors relatively well. I know some people relatively high up, and I know a lot of people relatively lower down at Games Workshop. We chat about the company, I suppose, but nothing. I'm not someone who wants to do rumors or would ever ask for that sort of thing or want it. So yeah, I'm relatively regular at Warhammer World. I mean, like I'm there every few months. You get to know people, but yeah, it doesn't really affect what I make, if that helps. The only actual thing that affects what I make is the fact that now sometimes I get sent fancy books. So yeah, then I make a video about them. A couple of people asking what I do for a living and how that feeds into the channel. I'm a theatre designer, but I'm specifically someone who designs for live events, like visuals and projections and things like that. So while like this sort of content creation is not something I did lots, I certainly have some experience of content creation in general. So yeah, you know, cameras and lights and having a studio that I can do this green screen in for work is handy. Also, did I theme my shirts for each of the founding Space Marine Legion videos? Yes, I did. I was really hoping to get closer with some of them. I had to reuse shirts a couple of times, but yes, they were all themed shirts and lighting colors. Has the time spent editing videos reduced, or do I spend more time polishing things? Probably reduced. As I said at the start, things like Tale of Four Gamers, I've moved to like an OBS streaming format, so most of it's done live. These videos are pretty formulaic now. Like the setup is relatively permanent apart from right now. And I've got a lot of like scripts and macros that help me like automate a lot of the procedures, especially things like getting Patreon names and things like that. So yeah, it's definitely sped up. How has my relationship to the audience changed? Interesting. It's interesting having so much of a bigger audience. I think you definitely care less, not care less about, but a couple of people posting an evil comment isn't going to bother me. You know, when there's like 30,000 people watching something in a day and like 2 people are angry, fine. So yeah, that's interesting. Would I do something differently? I probably would, but I don't know what. I probably would improve the audio first. I don't know if I'd do different things. I'd like to think I'd do more popular subjects. There are definitely newer people on YouTube who are doing well with like very generic, like, hey, I'm going to tell you all about orcs sort of videos. But then that isn't really what the channel's known for. So, meh, I don't know. Right, a couple of questions about pronunciation and why I sometimes have different pronunciations of words. Right, first, there is this idea which is very modern in 40K that the audiobooks have defined what everything is pronounced like. Obviously, the vast majority of people don't listen to audiobooks. I generally don't listen to audiobooks. And that's only really been a thing for the last 10 years. So a lot of these words, things like Abaddon, have been in my brain since 1992. And no one has defined how they are said until a couple of years ago, where someone made an audiobook I haven't listened to. So that's usually what it is. I generally don't worry that much. There's been some really interesting comments on pronunciation. And what's really interesting is some of them are going, well, this is how it's pronounced in the audiobook, so why don't you do it differently? I get these on a lot of videos. Why do you do it differently? And then a lot of them have this really interesting thing where it's really obvious that the commenter is just used to saying it in their local accent. I had a great one which was like Abaddon, and the way the commenter wrote it was like, this should be pronounced Arbor-dawn, like dawn when the sun comes up. And I was like, the only people in the world who pronounce the suffix don like dawn are Americans. You'd have to say that in an American accent to make it make sense. So you can totally see how some of it is people going, you didn't pronounce this like the video, and some of it is people going, you didn't pronounce it like my accent would. My name, Ian, is pronounced differently if I go one country over. In the last 2 weeks, I've been to 2 different countries, both of which instantly I was just referred to as Yan by everyone because that's normal for them. I'm never that bothered about it because in a galaxy of 1 million worlds, every name is pronounced differently by somebody. I'm not bothered. Also, there are definitely some that are wrong, where the decision made by Games Workshop is just silly. Robute is definitely one of them. There's no way that word says Robute or would ever be pronounced that way in any language. I mean, obviously it is in the language of Macragge, but it's silly. How do you decide what videos you make and how much you plan ahead? I don't really. I've got 3 or 4 videos in production right now. They're usually just on a big long list for ages until a useful opportunity presents itself. I'm quite liking following doing big series because at least it forces me to do. I mean, I know what I'm going to do next. So yeah, there's not a lot of thought that goes into it. Are you going to finish the Necromunda videos? I have always intended to, but just they're not very popular and everything else seems like a better idea at the time. So yeah, I would like to. I don't know when. Are there any videos I would like to make, but I haven't because I haven't got time for it? I don't think they'd be popular. Yeah, probably. There's loads of weird little videos that are like on the back burner permanently because I know I'd spend loads of time making them and no one will watch them. I mean, a lot of other YouTubers have said this, but there's other game systems which are like, great. But generally though, there's something I quite like about doing like beginnery videos, like introducing people to the world. So I'm not bothered that I'm doing, I'm not bothered by doing a video about Space Marine power armor. It's like still quite an interesting thing. Anyway, if your channel was not Warhammer related, what would you want it to be? Right, the reason this is doable for me is because so much of the things I say in the channels are already in my head. So if it wasn't Warhammer related, it would have to be the only other thing I could do that about, which is my job. And that's something I've thought about. Like I've thought about doing like how you make theatre, how you make live events as a channel, because I think it'd be quite popular. I just haven't got time to write anything because I'm too busy doing toy soldiers. Okay, looking to hold a romantic candle at dinner, what Warhammer candle would I recommend to set the mood? Honestly, the sort of Dark Angels and Astra Militarum ones are kind of the nicest. If you really want to go full on, then the Slaanesh ones are really, really sweet. And Khorne's all right. But yeah, the nicest ones are the Astra Militarum and Space Marine ones. They're sort of like foresty and fresh and nice. Actually, the Dark Tide one's quite good, especially for like a cozy setting. Would I rather fight a legion of Alpha Legion-sized horses or Alpha-sized legion of Horse Marines? I'm going to take advantage of, I think, the mistyping there. An Alpha-sized legion of Horse Marines would, of course, be one. That would be one Marine, because it's Alpha is just one. So, oh no, it's A, isn't it? I'm counting that as one. So I think that's probably the best bet. And as Terry Pratchett said, I would be faster than a horse, at least initially. If I could go back in time and buy any Games Workshop model brand new for the price it originally came on, I would probably get the Praetorian box set, which I did get back in time and then sold or lost or I don't know. But yeah, I would. That's like a nostalgia set for me. Bonus question, favorite queen in the new season of Drag Race? Yeah, difficult at the moment. I'm still like, I'm not sure who I like. I think Marsha is really good and brilliant, but I think she's going to stumble with that makeup thing. And I think she's going to get kicked off for being too samey. I would like to see Spice do quite well. But other than that, I'm still like, I'm not sure I like anyone else. What other games do I play that aren't in the Grimdarkverse? I would really like to play more war games that aren't in the Grimdarkverse, but I don't even have time to play the ones that are. So I did play a fair amount of Frostgrave when that was around. I'd love to do like Lion Rampant or something like that. Thinking maybe Carnival, but I'm not sure. What I do is play Dungeons and Dragons. So I'm playing D&D right now. I'm playing D&D with Silver Paints, if you know her from Insta, and her gang of people. We're doing a little campaign. I'm the DM. It's fun. It's a nice, fun thing to do. How old were you when you got into Warhammer, and have you had any hobby breaks? Yeah, I was probably 9 or 10 when I got into Warhammer. I remember being in primary school, which ends at age 10, 11 here, and having a copy of White Dwarf 158. So I remember that. So I was definitely into it like a bit before I went to secondary school. I definitely denied all knowledge of it when I was probably between the ages of like 16 and 20, maybe. And then I got back into it after university when, mostly as a way to connect with old mates from school when we were all dispersed around the country so we can meet up and play games. And I haven't stopped since because then I had a disposable income. What kind of music do I listen to? I used to listen to kind of any guitar-y music and the weirder end of electronica all the way through my 20s. I had like an encyclopedic knowledge of like unsigned London bands and things like that because I used to promote club nights and play in bands. And then about 10 years ago, I just freaking stopped. I barely listen to music anymore. When I do, it's usually nostalgic and I listen to tons of podcasts. What upcoming Black Library novels am I excited about? What's my favourite Horus Heresy novel? What's the best of 2022 to me? My favourite one I read in 2022 was, I can't remember the name of it. It's the current timeline novel set from the perspective of the Death Guard. It's brilliant. It's really well done. I can't remember what it's called. My favourite Horus Heresy novel is probably Legion. I just think it's brilliant. I think it's so well done. And it's about the normal people, and it gives you anyway, it's great. I'm probably most excited about the next the End of the Death and the Death of the End. Can't remember the name of it. The last Siege of Terror novel, because it means I can do the Siege of Terror video, and also because there's other videos I want to make where it's like I should really wait till that's out before I make this video. And the last Bequin novel, because I have a feeling they're going to tie into each other. And the next Black Legion, but no pressure. I have no idea when that's going to come out. You wear makeup? I thought you were just naturally youthful. I am just naturally youthful. I made a joke about getting ready and how questions about that in the post for this AMA. I forgot it today, but since I have a massive shiny head, I do have some matte powder that I usually put on. Yeah, taking that from my normal day job. But yeah, that's it. Okay, squat questions, obviously. Are you a fan of the new squats? Yeah, I've got the box set. I haven't done anything with it yet. I still think I prefer the Necromunda ones, but I've got this idea that I'm going to mush the Necromunda ones and the Votann box set and like some Caradron bits all together and make something that could be any of them. So yeah, I like them. Similar, what are my plans for the squat army now the new one's out? I think the idea will be to do that with all the plastic, so end up with like a Necromunda stroke 40k, maybe stroke Age of Sigmar sort of army. And then, depending on what happens with militia, use the old squats as a militia army for heresy would be the clever thing to do. We'll see what happens with that, or just for like old Hammer games or something. We'll see. Regarding 40k becoming a better casual game, I am going to dip my toe back in with boarding assaults, boarding actions, but I'm probably going to use my Arbites. Is a group of Votann called Votannis or Votannanis? I think Votann is singular and plural. Okay, Games Workshop-y sort of related things. What are my biggest concerns for a 40k show produced by Amazon? First, I should say, with a little bit of knowledge of working a little bit in those industries, not much, but a little bit, the fact that it has been announced as going into production does not mean it will ever get anywhere near being made. I would almost guess that the reason to announce it was to drum up more support for it. So just because this has been announced does not mean it's going to happen at all. It's almost certainly more likely not to happen than to happen. And that will be the case until we see a trailer, that will be the case. The only thing that worries me is if someone tries to do Space Marines. I just think I think all 40k stories, especially if you're introducing new people, you want to do Eisenhorn, you want to do an Inquisition story, you want to do something like that, something about people. Rogue Traders might be a good thing, but you absolutely don't. A gaunt, ghosty sort of wartime thing would be good, but you absolutely do not want to go into this going, great, Henry Cavill plays the Emperor, Henry Cavill plays head custodian. It's just bullshit. That's going to be a terrible series. So yeah, my only thing would be please make it about humans. What's your take on the video game side of Warhammer, specifically Space Marine? I don't play many video games. I know I did that massive stream at Christmas. That was the last time I turned on a video game. It's mid-February. So yeah, I like video games. I have played many video games in the past, but right now I just don't have time. If I'm going to do something in the evening, I'll either watch TV or I'll paint or I'll model things. But generally I don't turn video games on. So blur. I played Space Marine a little bit, then got bored. So I have no plans to play Space Marine 2. What could Games Workshop do to make the hobby more attractive for people in the long term? Entry points. The entry ramp is fucked at the moment. It's really bad. How do you get on to playing 40k? Like the dominance of competitive gaming, the dominance of match play, the idea of pickup games all means that essentially if you don't have your 2,000 point match play army, what the hell do you do? Like how does a new person get into this without spending absolutely tons immediately and then getting beaten the crap out of? 40k needs to be massively repositioned to aim at beginners getting into the game. And then maybe if there's people who want a super advanced version, they can all go off and do it, but make it really, really hard for them because you don't want that to become the default. And I think that's the problem right now. The biggest problem is getting people on board with the big games because, yeah, there's this idea, I think, that the small games, like the Kill Teams, are on-ramps to 40k, but in reality, Kill Team is just full of people who have played 40k, and it's so much of a mess that they've all gone to Kill Team or Necromunda or something. They're not the on-ramps I think they're intended to be. Is Games Workshop undermining its own success through shady business practices such as not crediting artists? No, that's not how companies work. If you sign up to be an artist for Games Workshop, you're not getting credited. If you sign up to draw the front of a cereal packet, you're probably not getting personally credited. If you sign up to be in a graphic design studio, making graphic design objects for the people, the studio will be credited, you probably won't. I happen to work in an industry where we have big list of credits in programs so everyone can get credited. But when we work on a corporate project, my company did it, every individual does not get credited. So, it's just, that's not how the business works. It would be lovely. I agree. I like seeing whoever wrote it in the book. I don't think it would hurt, but I don't think it's some hideous, horrible travesty that a company put out a product and go, it's by this company. What do I know about the Astartes animation, its creator being bought or sold by the 40k thing, all that stuff? Nothing. I don't know anything about that. All I know is like the general talk around it, which was, I would assume, when Warhammer TV was coming out, since Games Workshop now make animation, they are therefore required to protect their trademarks and copyrights in the sphere of animation, which means going to fan animators who are using their trademarks and copyrights and going, you can't do that. I don't know if it's any more complex than that. I don't know anything about the decisions that were made. I don't think anyone does, apart from the guy who made it, and everyone else is just conjecture. So my guess would be Warhammer Plus was coming out and Games Workshop went, we need to protect our copyright as now a maker of animation, so we need to stop people using our products in animations. Yeah. As far as the animation itself went, it looked lovely, but it was a little too cool for me. Like there was a little too much like, look at these really cool Space Marines that isn't really what I'm into 40k for. Do I prefer part painting or painting the model whole? And it depends on what sort of factors. Yeah, right. I paint quite quickly. I paint large armies at once. For me, it's whatever's easiest. I will assemble as much of the model as I can if it won't actually stop me getting to bits. When I'm painting, I do see people who like have a completely undercoated model and then they've completely painted the left arm or they've completely painted the face. To me, that's insanity. I have no idea how you can do that. I paint the entire model in stages at once, like all the base coats, then all the washes, then all the highlights, like that. So yeah, that's how I paint things, I guess. I'll do it in sub-assemblies if it's like a big thing that you can't paint any other way. How do I see 3D printing impacting 40k? Do I think Games Workshop will stop being a model company and sell STLs? Nope. I've got 3D printers. They are a whole entire other hobby to use, and they do not give you what I want, which is assembling a kit. Like, I think one of the things I really enjoy is the whole, like, I've got all these bits, I'm going to assemble them like this. I don't want to print a complete finished 3D model with supports and then clean it and wash it. The act of clipping supports off is so much more annoying than the act of clipping things off sprues. Yeah, so I think it's an exception. If we ever get to the point where you can bloop, like Star Trek bloop up an instant Games Workshop model, then yeah, maybe. But yeah, I think the joy is in the assembly for me. So although I have 3D printers, I use them for things, for filling in gaps and spare parts that I don't have. Yeah, no. How much punishment should be given to people who don't remove mold lines or drill their gun barrels? I don't drill my gun barrels. Screw that. Screw drilling gun barrels. You don't need to. It's not an expected part of assembling a model. It's just something people use to yell at other people with. You don't need to. They're not real. Is it time for 40k players to ditch Games Workshop and start making your own rules? That's kind of what, what's it called? One-page rules is. The problem is always that this game is still very niche, it's still hard to find games, and everyone has to therefore agree on what version of the game they're playing. I mean, it's the same problem we currently have with like match play. Yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know if it'll work. Do I still have my first painted mini? And if so, what is it? Or if not, what was it? I don't know what it was. I think it might have been a squat. It might also have been some Chaos Space Marines, like the 90s metal Chaos Space Marines. I remember having a load of word bearers that were like sprayed Humbrol dark red. Really bad. The world hadn't invented washes then, I think, or at least I didn't know about them. So yeah, very basic. Don't have any of them anymore. If you didn't have a gaming group you were familiar with, would you feel uneasy about the prospect of playing at a gaming shop where the dodgy side of the hobby come out? No, because all those people yelling on Twitter and yelling into YouTube about who are being bigots and fascists or whatever, like just being arseholes, they aren't like that in real life. Even when I've gone to like Even when I've gone to very competitive events, I've played things like Nova 40k singles. Everyone's lovely. I mean, I've met a couple of people who are maybe a bit dodgy, a bit like awkward, not like horrible. No, so no, not worried about it. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'd be more worried about just people not having the same idea of what game they want. But the actual people that yell hatred online, they don't actually play, or they wouldn't dare do that in real life. Right, there's a load of questions that are like, if you could change one thing about Warhammer, what would it be? If I had to do it, if it was literally a stroke right now, what would I do to Warhammer 40k? I would remove command points. Just remove the whole thing. It will horribly unbalance everything. So what? They can just continue balancing it like they have done so far. Great, bring out another points update. But yeah, if I needed to make the game just much more accessible, I would remove the second game everyone's forced to play. Do I like the change of 40k becoming like an ongoing narrative? I didn't think it was necessary, but now I read it, I think it's quite good. It's a nice way to refresh the setting. Don't know what that means for anyone else, but for me, I've been enjoying the sandbox for 30 years. And now I'm enjoying the idea that there's this like actual plot unfolding across the galaxy. The more I read about it, the more I enjoy that. I hope they keep making things in the olden times in the sandbox, but yeah, I don't mind it. I quite like it. Am I interested in Imperium Maledictum given its focus on more normal citizens and less dramatic powers, and was the role-playing aspect of Rogue Trader useful for me? I never played Rogue Trader that much. Like the big time I really got into playing and had armies and things was when I was at secondary school, which was 2nd edition. So I've never done that. Yes, though, Imperium Maledictum, if people don't know, is Wrath and Glory, the current Games Workshop 40k, or Cubicle 7 40k role-playing game. They're releasing something that allows you, as far as I can tell, to stop using bloody Space Marines as your characters and go down to like the low-level people who used to be like in the old Dark Heresy game, like lower-level characters. That is exactly the sort of 40k roleplay I want. If you're playing a Space Marine, you're doing it wrong. How should we reconcile the silly and serious sides of 40k? If it's going to be like, if it's going to have that black humor thing, it has to have the silly things next to the serious things. So I don't necessarily think you need to solve that. Like I realize there are people who really like the serious tone and hate all the silly bits. I think they are in the wrong universe. The silly bits are there to give color to the serious bits. The serious bits make the silly bits horrific. I don't think we need to reconcile them. I would like Games Workshop to play up the silliness and the satire more. I think some people need to be told that it is actually meant to be stupid. Do I think the Leagues of Votann do a good job of my idea I posted a few months before they came out about how the Imperium needs some sort of foil to show that it's unnecessary? Yeah, I do. I want more stuff like that. I want loads of Imperium Nihilist stuff to do stuff like that. I particularly like the fact that the Votann are hideously exploitative space mining capitalists who will strip everything of resources and kill everyone on the planet as long as they can get their gold. So yeah, done well, I think. Do I think a faction in 40k can win the war? In short, no, because you sort of want everyone to be warring all the time for the game to work, but also because the point is that everything's bad because everyone's warring all the time. I don't know what winning the war would mean. Like, certainly if a good faction won the war, then that would sort of justify it, which one of the whole points of 40k and everyone being bad is that you can't justify the war. If you could pick an army or race from another fictional universe to fight in 40k, who would it be? Now, I did think about this for a while, and based on my previous answers about silliness, it is the Toad Empire from Bucky O'Hare. Their aesthetic does not currently exist in 40k. They sort of are like a preening, Skaven-like Imperium, and they're all little frogs, and we all know that Games Workshop like making little frogs. So yeah, the Toad Empire, that's what I want in Warhammer 40k. Thoughts on the Siege of Terra so far, or any predictions for Death in the End? Yeah, I've enjoyed the Siege of Terra. I think it's, to be honest, probably overall, there's a few bad ones, but overall it's better in quality than the Horus Heresy averaging. So I've enjoyed it. Predictions for Death in the End, it's a Dan Abnett book. John and Grammaticus has started using Enuncia, so it's absolutely going to be like The reason Horus is killed is because John or Ol use an enuncier against him. That's absolutely what's going to happen. If you could have one mystery revealed, what would it be? This is a difficult one. I'm not that bothered. For an easy answer, I'm going to say I'd love it if they found an excuse for the Legion of the Damned to give it a bit more of a story behind it. The Firehawks one's really good. You could still use that. But the recent Dawn of Fire novels are quite fun for playing with the idea of faith and the warp and what it really is. So the Legion of the Damned might get a good story out of that. Alejandro did loads of questions, but the one that he hasn't been answered elsewhere is, what's your take on Yarrick's demise? I think it's really good. I think they should kill off more characters. This happens over thousands of years. People should be dying. Half the characters should be dead. This is fine. Phil, an actual lore question. Grey Knights are all psychers. What's that about? Because of the Edict of Nicaea. Yeah, there was an Edict of Nicaea. Then there was a heresy. Chaos were using psychers, so did the Loyalists. And by the time the Grey Knights got founded, I think that ship had sailed. No one was doing the whole no psychers thing anymore. Opinions on the existence of Malice. If people don't know, that is a reframing of an old Chaos minor god called Malal. I really like the idea of Chaos minor gods. I think that's a nice idea that there's all these weird ones. Vashtor in Arcs of Omen is a similar thing. Don't really care for Malal. Don't think that was the cleverest idea in the world. So, yeah, not bothered. Will I be doing an Eldar lore series? Maybe. Not my favourite thing. What do you think about the speculation of a Loyalist Primarch returning to 40k? I'd rather see less Primarchs in 40k, so I do not want that. And do I reach out to former or current writers and developers for future videos? Maybe. I haven't got anything in the plans for that. Maybe. Don't know. If you were given the chance to make one traitor legion stay loyal and one loyalist traitor, what would you go for? Traitors staying loyal, world eaters would be really interesting. Other way round, to be honest, I think playing the Dark Angels like that has a lot of reasoning behind it. Or Iron Hands, no one likes them anyway. Right, now we get to all the favourite questions. I'm not very good with favourite questions. I don't have a favourite faction or a favourite whatever. I just like the world. So I'm not like some... I don't get the whole I support this faction thing in 40k. But I can ask the first one, which is what's my least favourite faction. And in any setting, it is always anything with elves in it. So Eldar, elves, Eldari, whatever you want to call them, they're the worst. Also, what edition is my favourite? Very different question. I can answer that. I would say I have a soft spot for 3rd edition, but 4th edition 40k, probably the best one. Also, 8th edition, just the indexes. That was good. And favourite codex is the 2nd edition 40k Chaos Codex, because it was bright yellow and really cartoony and introduced loads of stuff and had 3 army lists in it, so that's quite good. There's loads and loads of questions on the vague theme of if there's something from the hobby when you started, would you reintroduce it or remake the model or something like that? So I'm going to say, in answer to that, I would love to see a remade commemorative edition Iron Bonts the Squat. Maybe Necromunda model, that'd be quite good. But yeah, he'd be quite fun. And in terms of armies, yeah, I'm going to stick with the Space Frogs. Let's stick with, it's going to be frog themed. Let's bring back the Slan in everything. That'd be fun. What era of 40k art do I like the most? There's loads of bits I like throughout the whole thing. But for me, the absolute pinnacle of 40k art, the thing that really makes it what it is John Blanche, mid-90s, around the time of Necromunda, where you get all that big black and white art that's really detailed, but still really scratchy. That's what I like. Marine chapter favourite, I can answer that at least for Heresy. I think White Scars are it's partly because of the books. I think White Scars are the only ones, even vaguely written believable, nice people. I think they're probably my favourite in Heresy. Don't know about 40k. Okay, stupid questions. What's my favourite colour? Yellow or black? What Xenos would you be? I think if I was in 40k, I'd be a Tau. That's the easiest thing. What 3 Primarchs would you take on a deserted island? You'd take Sanguinius, because he can get you off the deserted island. Grot to a Warbos or Servitor to call? Definitely Grot to a Warbos. What came first, the Ferris or the Manus? The Manus. And finally, where does Mira get her t-shirts from? I don't know. You'll have to ask her. I think they come from a lot of places over a long span of time. So there we go. Thanks for that, everyone. Thanks so much. It's been another fun year. The channel has grown. What I do has grown. and I'm still enjoying it. And so thank you for being patrons. Thank you for being subscribers. Actually, like, there's loads. I should say this now because I never say it in videos. If you're watching these regularly, and I know there's loads of people watching them regularly, subscribe. It's worth it. It makes the numbers go up. It looks good. I get big plaques from it. It's lovely. I know there's loads of people who watch and don't. Also, like, if you want to buy some models, there are affiliate links. I really will actually push that. I don't know if you get a benefit, but I do. And yeah, what can I say? This is fun. I'm going to keep on doing it. Not completely sure what I'll do next, but thank you for watching, and I'll see you for a normal video next time. Bye.